Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiraye.
Tato Jayamudiraye.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, I first offer my respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayana, unto Narayana, Rishi, the supermost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and Srila Vyasadeva, the author. My regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam by rendering service to the pure devotee. All that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed to practically nil, and thus loving service unto the glorious Lord, whose praise with transcendental hymns becomes established, is an irrevocable fact. Okay, today, Srimad Bhagavatam, new chapter, Canto 2 still, and the 8th chapter is entitled Questions by King Parikshit. Can you see if those glasses are there for me, please? Thank you. Text number 1, please repeat. Rajovacha.
Rajovacha.
Brahmana.
Brahmana.
Chodito.
Chodito.
Brahman.
Brahman.
Brahmana Chodito. Brahman.
Brahmana Chodito. Brahman.
Gunakyane.
Gunakyane.
Gunasya.
Gunasya.
Cha.
Cha.
Gunakyane. Gunasya cha.
Gunakyane. Gunasya cha.
Yashmai.
Yasmai.
Yashmai.
Yasmai.
Yata.
Yata.
Praha.
Praha.
Yashmai. Yashmai. Yata. Praha.
Yasmai. Yasmai. Yata. Praha.
Narado.
Narado.
Deva.
Deva.
Dashana.
Dashana.
Narado Deva Dashana.
Narado Deva Dashana.
Rajovacha.
Rajovacha.
Brahmana Chodito. Brahman.
Brahmana Chodito. Brahman.
Gunakyane. Gunasya cha.
Gunakyane. Gunasya cha.
Yasmai. Yasmai. Yata praha.
Yasmai. Yasmai. Yata praha.
Narado Deva Dashana.
Narado Deva Dashana.
Rajovacha.
Rajovacha.
Brahmana Chodito. Brahman.
Brahmana Chodito. Brahman.
Gunakyane. Gunasya cha.
Gunakyane. Gunasya cha.
Yasmai. Yasmai. Yata praha.
Yasmai. Yasmai. Yata praha.
Narado Deva Dashana.
Narado Deva Dashana.
Rajovacha.
Gunakhyane gunasya cha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Narado deva darshanaha.
Narado deva darshanaha.
Rajo vacha.
Rajo vacha.
Brahmana chudito brahman.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Narado deva darshanaha.
Narado deva darshanaha.
Rajovacha.
Rajovacha.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Narado deva darshanaha.
Narado deva darshanaha.
Rajovacha.
Rajovacha.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Narado deva darshana.
Narado deva darshanaha.
Rajavacha.
Rajovacha.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Narado deva darshana.
Narado deva darshanaha.
Rajavacha.
Rajovacha.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Narado deva darshana.
Narado deva darshana.
Rajovacha.
Rajovacha.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Brahmana chodito brahman.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Gunakyane gunasya cha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Yasmayasmayata praha.
Narado deva darshanaha.
Narado deva darshanaha. Okay. Raja. The king. Uvacha. Inquired. Brahmana. By Lord Brahma. Chodita. Being instructed. Brahman. Oh, learned Brahmana. Sukadeva Goswami. Guna Akyane. In narrating the transcendental quality. Agunasya. Of the Lord. Who is without material quality. Cha. In. Yasmai. And whom. Yata. As much as. Praha. Explain. Narada Muni. Devadarshanaha. One whose audience is as good.
One whose audience is as good
is that of any demigod. King Parikshit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami, How did Narada Muni, whose hearers are as fortunate as those instructed by Lord Brahma, explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is without material quality, and before whom did he speak? Please repeat. King Parikshit inquired
King Parikshit inquired
from Sukadeva Goswami,
from Sukadeva Goswami,
how did Narada Muni,
how did Narada Muni,
whose hearers
are
as fortunate
as fortunate
as those instructed by Lord Brahma,
as those instructed by Lord Brahma,
explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord,
explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord,
who is without material quality,
who is without material qualities,
and before whom did he speak?
and before whom did he speak?
Srila Prabhupada is divine purport. Devarshi Narada was directly instructed by Brahmaji, who was also directly instructed by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the instructions imparted by Narada to his various disciples are as good as those of the Supreme Lord. That is the way of understanding Vedic knowledge. It comes down from the Lord by disciplic succession, and this transcendental knowledge is distributed to the world by this descending process. There is no chance, however, to receive the Vedic knowledge from mental speculators. Therefore, wherever Narada Muni goes, he represents himself as authorized by the Lord, and his appearance is as good as that of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the disciplic succession, which strictly follows the transcendental instruction, is the bona fide chain of disciplic succession. And the test for 6 bona fide spiritual masters is that there should be no difference between the instruction of the Lord, originally imparted to his devotee, and that which is imparted by the authority in the line of disciplic succession. How Narada Muni distributed the transcendental knowledge of the Lord will be explained in later cantos. It will appear also that the Lord existed prior to the material creation, and therefore his transcendental name, quality, etc. do not represent any material quality. Whenever, therefore, the Lord is described as a guna, or without any quality, it does not mean that he has no quality, but that he has no material quality. Such is the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, as the conditioned souls have. He is transcendental to all material conceptions, and thus he is described as aguna, without material quality. So I offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who is opening our eyes, although they have certainly been shut by the veil of Maya, the darkness of ignorance. When will Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within the material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give us shelter under his lotus feet? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So I'm very fortunate to give class, even though just a few of us here. All of you are serious devotees, so it kind of makes one a little nervous if you're not really serious yourself, or you're not really studious or studied up, and have a whole presentation on the tip of your tongue. But for the devotees, this should be our life and soul, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, attending Mangalarti, chanting japa, worshipping Tulsi Devi, worshipping the spiritual master, worshipping Srila Prabhupada, and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then going about our business for Krishna, whatever that may be. It may be Brahminical, it may be administrative, even protective. It may be, most needed, some sort of financial endeavors. Different types of folks. Prabhupada made that clear and very evident throughout his books. And one may simply be, artistic, or very taught in some sort of science, some sort of field of maintenance or construction or something like that in this world. So different types of folks. There's so many types of folks. But everyone can go about their business to please Krishna during the day and bring home that result to Krishna and offer it to his lotus feet. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says then one can attain perfection simply by offering the fruits of one's work to him. In the 18th chapter, something like verse 46 or something like that, up in that neighborhood. So, these are just natural things to human beings. This is the way Krishna made the human body. He says that also in the 4th chapter. 4 types of human beings. If you have a human society, you're going to have these types of people. It's not that they're all the same. Some sort of classless society where there is no class, but there's always different types of folks. We see that is a false proposition. It may be stated differently and it may be defined, but if it's defined as somehow having no class, then it's absolutely wrong. There's different types of people, so there's going to be different categories or classes of people. You can't take a scientist and try to turn him into a something else, into some type of warrior. He's going to join the Green Beret or something. And you may have in Kali Yuga. We do have a mixed mode. In the Kali Yuga, meaning the age we live in. So you do get people with a mixed mode. You're not going to have. You're going to have. And generally, a lot of times people will have a hard time ascertaining their calling, so to speak, or what their occupation is. They may be very confused. Because of these different modes, working on one feels passionate, one feels good, one feels like they only want to do one type of thing and nothing else. So that's, part of the problem with Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is this age where you have a prominence of this passion in ignorant mode, and so therefore society becomes very chaotic. But in other ages, things are much easier because people are fixed in a definite designation, and they know what they're meant to do, at least in their human life. then it's just a matter of learning some bhakti, learning how to devote it to God. But in Kali Yuga, it's very difficult for people to devote themselves to God when they don't even know what to do. A lot of times. Not all the time. I mean, some people, just, they know what they're going to do from the time they're little. But a lot of people, if not the vast majority, they don't know. And, except how we're taught. And, we're taught to make money to make a living. And so everybody thinks in those terms, well, I can make a living like this, I can, or they learn from their parents, or, according to the type of schooling that one had. And then, we can see what society has to offer. And generally that's how, at least in our country, how people pick up on, an occupation. Then we see years down the line, many people aren't satisfied, that they have an opportunity, they try to change, or they get some satisfaction, they take to drinking and smoking and just recreational stuff. And bhakti, like it's just swept under the rug. It generally is some sort of worship type of service that, one does to avoid going to hell, as people were taught when they were children. So, very difficult in the world. But to make it easy, Lord Chaitanya's movement is simply offering people a guru or a spiritual master, someone that can help them to sort all this out and figure out what to do in life, and what is the purpose of doing it. I mean, is the purpose really just to get by and to have a family and help them get by and send them all off while I go to the grave, not knowing where I'm going, but hoping it's not hell? And, so, that's how it's been. People, they have some faith in whatever their religion is. And, they hope that will save them. But for the vast amount of minutes and hours in their lives, they just struggle through the world, trying to earn a living. Just like right now, 3 million people in a week or two filing for unemployment. Unprecedented. In this country, it's starting to sound like stuff that went on after World War I with the Great Depression. But, is that really what life is all about? Just centered around economic development? What do we, we have a class, a professional clergy, or professional renunciates, who live in monasteries, who just pray. But the vast amount of people, they're not eager for that life because they're so infused with the sense of enjoyment. But what to enjoy, all they can figure out is you try to enjoy the satisfaction of your senses. You eat snowballs, you enjoy the tongue, all kinds of things to eat. Then, as soon as one hits puberty, then, it's all over as far as sexuality goes, and it's just pumped into people. It's like they take a syringe and they pump it into you. Yeah, that's what will make you happy. So, people, they just get like burning on fire with lust. So Lord Chaitanya, he has to cure all this. It's like, if we think people are suffering from COVID-19, we should see how much they're suffering from lust, anger, and greed. People are desperately in bad shape. They're completely materialistic, the vast majority of them. And it's only a person who has spiritual vision that can, help us out. So the devotees, in our International Society for Krishna Consciousness, our main priority is going out and distributing Prabhupada's books and teaching people what is in those books and getting them some stability in whatever their position it may be. It may be one thing for one person and another thing for another person. They're all so messed up, you just got to get them something to latch on to. It may be farming for somebody, but for somebody else, it may be taking an occupation that they already have and devoting it to God. Or learning to have some faith in God. So many, different scenarios. But on the other hand, that's not all it is to it, teaching. One time, and I didn't research it, I can't bring up the quote or the context of this and that, but, Srila Prabhupada said something along the lines that there are other occupations that are more important. It's not that necessarily the Brahmin is the most important. Yeah, sure, he's the head of society. But if the society is so headless, it may need somebody who can support the whole kit and caboodle. May even have a more important position. Like what would all these Brahmanas do for fulfilling Prabhupada, one of his main desires, if it wasn't for somebody like Ambarish? So how important is his service? Somebody that can supply $35 million. Who can go in and write a check anytime it's needed. What to speak about if you actually get some leader who has the potency to stand up against, the wall of corruption and, and self-aggrandizement that all these political leaders, are infested with. Still, our Krishna consciousness movement, it's simple for the simple, but it's difficult for all, the crooked people, which, it's the vast, so many people in the world. So, but it's a grassroots movement in the sense that at least we can reach the simple people, the innocent people, like we've been doing. It's been grassroots from day one. Just grassroots movement that has expanded this far. And it will continue to expand because that's Lord Chaitanya's potency. It's his era. Otherwise, there was no stopping Kali. It's only because of Lord Chaitanya that, this is possible. Otherwise, who's got the potency? It's only because, Lord Chaitanya is giving potency to his devotees. Otherwise, would be like being just erased by the Kali Yuga, just like erasing a verse on the board. Would be just getting erased. Just like will happen when Lord Chaitanya's movement leaves. All the barbarians will just take over. They'll just take over with their Malechha and Yavana cultures that make up the vast majority of culture in the world at this day. But to actually see that there's some purification going on, to actually be able to dream that, yes, we're going to have a golden age, that somehow ever all these Malechha and Yavana cultures are going to, make pizza different. They're going to learn to sing all the holy names of God, not just one holy name, and declare it supreme and fight with everybody else for chanting anything different. So we can have some perception that yes, it's all possible You know, what probably seemed impossible in 1965, even to Srila Prabhupada. You know, in 2020, you know, you can see that, yes, there is some light there at the end of the tunnel. This will happen. And just like Arjuna, we can be just an instrument to bring it about. And Krishna will be pleased for whatever little role we play. I mean, it's highly doubtful that any of us will be some, great spiritual master or, great influence in the world. But all together, and Prabhupada said that's how the movement will make some headway, by the cooperation of everyone. By all of us working together, doing each little bit we can do, it becomes all possible. I mean, where else can you find people that can devote their lives to something? And they do it. We see people do it all over the world. They devote their life to something. Whether it's this charity or this corporation or this sport or even they have huge fan clubs who love some celebrity. And they devote their life to it, to, following and learning about it, even imitating that person. So if we can somehow ever dovetail that, as Prabhupada used to say, just dovetail those tendencies and, bring people to Krishna consciousness and strike that awareness within their own hearts, with their own relationship, and they can start to think in those ways that, no longer am I some material body that's, destined for just some ultimate diminishing down the line and whatever karma is in between. But I'm some eternal person in there that has the opportunity to serve Guru and Guranga, to serve the line of disciplic succession, to become, an instrument for what is supreme, and not just be a person in a mask in the material world who, is trying to be whatever the body is. Well, I'm African American, I have to join with all the other ones. And we're going to stand up against this white power. And the white power is thinking the opposite. We're going to maintain control. It's freedom for everybody, as long as we're in control. Or whatever they think, they all think in different ways, And they have their way of trying to make the world equal. And, they talk about it in political ways. And, everybody has the same economic advantage. So long as you can get off your butt and work hard. Well, that person probably had the opportunity for a great education. Or maybe even a great inheritance. Or, so many things. So, but we're not those masks. We're an eternal being. And so is everyone else. And to be able to start reviving that vision in the world so that people can see one another like that rather than just seeing the body. That's what this movement is meant to bring about. That's what the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam will bring about. So we shouldn't think that to hear the Bhagavatam is ordinary, or to have our class every day is ordinary. We may have to do many, many other things to please Srila Prabhupada and organize this movement. But it's centered around the teachings which are described here. So we have to inundate ourselves with those, with that wonderful information. And, gain some revelation by putting it into practice. That's how the revelation comes. Prabhupada teaches that in his purports in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto. By practicing it, revelation comes. If we don't give up sense gratification, we can never understand what it means to control the senses. But when we give up sense gratification, then you can get some understanding of it. Otherwise it just remains theory. It's just theory. The world's made up of people that speak about theory. But to gain practical information, one has to practice what is being taught. So, for us Americans to, have put aside that American culture, what they eat and what they do, what they think, and to take up an ancient culture of Sanatan Dharma, or an occupation that's eternally serving the supreme controller, rather than just serving some state, some mundane state that's been around for a few hundred years or a few thousand. Or they have their school of thought, or to serve the school of thought of the Harvard psychology department, with all their pictures on the wall, beginning in the 1600s. These are our professors, and this is who we learn from, and we are espousing these teachings without twist on it, which makes us unique. No, we have our line of disciplic succession, and we're espousing the message of Krishna. And Krishna is not an ordinary person. He's the person everyone's trying to worship in the world. He is Allah. He is Jehovah. He's the Father of Christ, or he is the Christ, whatever way you look at him. He's all those things. He was worshipped way before anyone else was worshipped. And he's the oldest thing in a new outfit. He's dressed like a sannyasi now. He's no longer fighting with Kshatriyas, all these warmongers. That pastime's over. Now he's teaching them all with his strong logic and the power of Shastra. None of them know anything about the universe. They'll make us believe that there's no life out there. Or if there's life, we don't know what it is. We're waiting for another transmission of radio waves, or this wave or that wave. We're trying to hear what they're saying. In the meantime, we just make up science fiction movies. But the Vedas teaches that there's 4 superior people throughout the universe. And we can even be one of them. We don't have to be a measly human being. We can be a deva. We can be so many types of celestial beings. But even that is inferior to being Krishna's devotee. And being Krishna's devotee here on earth, at this day and time, when Lord Chaitanya, when Krishna is trying to teach the world as Lord Chaitanya, this information is very powerful. It's not that we're very powerful. And we may have a lot of doubt. Well, who's going to believe it, Who's going to believe it? Now, who's going to believe Jagannath? Who's going to believe that form is God? We don't believe like that. It looks like something Native American Indians did, So, but the potency is in Jagannath himself. The potency, is in the Shastra. It's in the name. We just present it to people. Look, it works. And the proof that it works is that we were able to give up lust, anger, and greed. People are burning up from it. But when they meet somebody that's just a little bit free from it, they can give a little bit of credence to what they have to say. Yeah, the Bhagavad Gita. That people, they they may not appreciate that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They may only appreciate that there's a possibility of controlling the mind and senses. That's all I could appreciate about it. I didn't care that they said Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It just sounded like another organization claiming that their God was God to me. That's how I thought about it. But to learn how to control the mind and senses, I had an interest in that because, I obviously, wasn't very good at that. I wanted to see how these swamis did this. How these, powerful, renunciates or anyone who had some sort of divinity could do something like that. So, there's something there's some way, there's some aspect of divine culture that people need and are looking for. We have to be able to see that, figure that out, what that person needs. I mean, they're suffering, just like we are suffering. They're suffering. And, we have the solace of being able to take shelter of the holy name, being able to take shelter of the holy Bhagavatam. I mean, Lord Chaitanya would go in ecstasy just hearing one verse. It's powerful. And so we, to be able to be that person who can help another person, even if it's like just giving prasadam. I mean, that's not very difficult. There's all kinds of people hungry for just food. So if we can give them prasadam, it's really easy. So anyway, I'm just kind of giving my usual speech here now. So I'll stop it for some, if there's any questions. We've got about 8 minutes till 8:30 and we'll knock off 10 minutes. There's only so much we can take, and I know there's only so much you can take of my rap, So must be some kind of comment or question, Veda.
I was appreciating what you were saying. I was thinking of Srila Prabhu describing, using the analogy of the body to be whole.
The body?
To be whole.
Oh, whole, okay.
If there's just a head and the rest of the body isn't there, it's not whole, it's not complete. And, so all the society, it's like right now, one of the problems we're having with this virus is there's not enough ventilators for people who are actually needed. So a simple truck driver could be saving lives right now. We may designate that person in the Sudra class or a worker class, labor class, or whatever, but his or her service is so vital right now to help save lives. But similarly, we experienced here after Katrina, society was basically shut down because there was no labor class. For us as Vaishnavas to realize that all aspects of society are needed and that not everyone is necessarily going to be on the Brahminical platform or going to have the tendencies that we may have as devotees, and to see Krishna in them, and we've seen some devotees. I think it's evident right now, not only because of the virus, but it's evident a lot how many devotees actually come to hear Bhagavatam class. They're not inclined in that way. They may be inclined more to work for Krishna or do something else for Krishna. So I think to have that vision that broader vision. And of course, Srila Prabhupada had that. And unfortunately, we don't know exactly what his instructions would have been in establishing Varnashram Dharma. But in my heart, I feel he would have not only instructed us of how to be self-sufficient, but I think he would have instructed us also how to engage all aspects of society. Those devotees who were more Kshatriya-oriented, to protect the forms, or those devotees who were more Vaishya-oriented, to help raise funds, or whatever. So I appreciate your analogy and what you were saying in that regard. Thank you.
In defense of our community a little bit, because of the coronavirus, some people on here, like Mother Haridwani and probably Christian.
Christian's going outside.
Okay. And then others, we also have a community where we have a bunch of older people, and they also have a lot of independence. But we see that by the arrangement of Lord Chaitanya, a lot of them are constantly hearing.
Yeah.
Like if you see Bijma all the time on his walk, he's always listening to classes. Even Chitraketu, when he used to do the pots at night, always listening. He must have listened to everything that Amala Bhakti ever said. As well as Srila Prabhupada and other lectures and songs. Same with Madhava Priya and Krishna Shraya. They would maybe be here if it wasn't for the corona. But they also, everybody's looking at a class on Desire Tree, or they're looking at it on Mayapur TV. So they have a lot better choices than, Yogindra giving class. But still we should, in our little community, we should try to come together. And especially it should be the new people. Because the new people in a boot camp, they're like a brahmachari or a brahmacharini. They're in a boot camp. So they don't have the same freedom, as a soldier who's been through that and now has a certain occupation in the movement, a certain position, and may have, a lot more independence than a person who's in boot camp. So it's always there for the new person, or a person who just may be a brahmachari who's completely dependent on the temple. Which we don't have a big brahmachari community, but like in Mayapur we have a big brahmachari community, and all the brahmacharis are, forced by their dharma to be at the class in the morning. Unless they're on the altar or cooking or doing something else. Out distributing books, and then they have their own little sadhana program. So I know we also have people who just wake up late and they're probably just going to the shower, and then they're looking for something to do around here, like Jagabalaba, who's never here for long, but when he comes, mainly we count on him to do some work. We don't really expect his participation in the Bhagavatam class because unfortunately it's never really gotten into his blood. But, he's the one who put up the walkway between the kitchen and the temple. He's the one who put up the pump house. He's the one who built the equipment shed that we park the equipment under over there at the ox barn. He's the one who put the hardy board around the 2-story building. So we have to engage everyone.
He just trimmed those bushes.
Yeah, he just trimmed the mammoth
and cut my
monster
my
bush.
internet. Accidentally.
Our community is not completely in Maya, but we're just trying to engage everyone, and due to our own potency, people may not be running over here to all the classes. But many of them do take advantage of seeing other things that Prabhupada's ISKCON has to offer. which, you know, we're very happy for them to be able to do that. We do it ourselves sometimes too. But we have to, you know, continually work on that, you know, how to improve or how to make things better. You know, we have a group of devotees who have organized some 12-hour Harinam program on Saturday, hoping to extend it maybe into a 24-hour one if it sort of spontaneously happens. But they're devoted to making sure that it goes on for 12 hours. So different things. Unfortunately, we just had Srirag, who's going into retirement. I mean, maybe he'll come out of retirement, but so then that makes us looking for some way to, you know, to put up our buildings again, because, you know, he was the best professional builder that we had, you know. Hare Krishna. Can I say something in 1 minute that will conclude everything on a really powerful, positive note? Just have to keep following in Prabhupada's footsteps and, you know, hope to do something like some of the, you know, big, wonderful projects that we've seen manifest in ISKCON. Maybe here, slowly but surely, you know, we can also manifest our dream of, you know, having wonderful guest house, wonderful temple, you know, wonderful restaurant, even while being out here in the country where you have, you know, cow protection and agriculture, and you have like a one ashram college in the sense that you have all 4 varnas functioning in a self-contained society. So that dream may come slowly but surely for us, because in fact, speaking, it's only the local people here that are working on it. And, you know, nobody's, you know, sending money from London. You know, nobody's sending money from LA, except somehow the people that we garner some support from, because they somehow manage to have some relationship with us one way or another. But so, you know, and that has to go on all over the world. I mean, who's going to care about, Providence, Louisiana, except for the people in Providence, Louisiana? So somehow this ISKCON movement, you know, has to get to every crook and nanny, village and town, you know, and the locals will take it up just like they've done with their churches. Well, I mean, throughout northern Mississippi, Louisiana, you got a Baptist church every 3 blocks, you know, because they have their own church. Because that's just the way people are nowadays, you know. So in our ISKCON movement has, we have to somehow have to stick together and pass it on to, you know, make the dream fulfilled for Prabhupada's pleasure as much as possible. And, you know, I just compliment the devotees for sticking in there and doing what they can, you know. Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.